Most women spend years worrying if their bodies are perfect enough for the bedroom, while most men are actually lying there wishing you would just stop thinking and start feeling, because the truth about what goes on between the sheets is something nobody is actually talking to you about in a way that makes sense. I want you to imagine for a second that everything you have been told about male desire is a half-truth designed to sell you a gym membership or a piece of lingerie that you feel awkward wearing anyway, because we have been conditioned to believe that men are these simple mechanical creatures who just want a certain look or a specific set of moves. But if you want to truly unlock a man's deepest levels of intimacy and keep him come back for more than just the physical release, you have to understand the psychological hunger that he is too afraid to put into words himself. You see, we live in a world where men are expected to be the hunters and the initiators and the ones who drive the ship when it comes to getting frisky. But what women don't realize is that this creates a massive pressure cooker of performance anxiety that stays hidden under a mask of masculine confidence. And the one thing a man wants more than your perfect outfit or your ability to perform a certain trick is the absolute soul-crushing certainty that you actually want him as much as he wants you. It sounds simple, right? But I'm telling you now that most men spend their lives feeling like a nuisance for having a high drive, and they feel like they are constantly auditioning for your attention. And when you finally say yes to their horizontal tango, he is often thinking, is she doing this because she wants to, or is she doing this because it's Tuesday and she thinks she has to? The biggest secret is that a man's greatest turn on isn't your physical attributes. It is your active participation and your visible, audible, palpable hunger for him. Because when you are passive in the bedroom, even if you are the most beautiful woman on the planet, you are inadvertently sending a signal to his lizard brain that says, I am tolerating this rather than I am craving this. I want you to think about the last time you really got it on and ask yourself, were you in your head thinking about the lighting or the angle of your stomach? Or were you in your body actually experiencing the electricity of the moment? Because a man can feel the difference between a woman who is performing and a woman who's present and nothing. Kills the mood faster for a guy than feeling like he is working a job instead of sharing an experience. We talk about the physical stuff all the time, but we ignore the fact that for a man, sex is often the only place where he feels safe enough to be vulnerable. And when you show him that, you are not just a recipient of his affection, but an active partner in the heat of the moment. You are giving him a form of validation that he cannot get anywhere else in his life. He wants to know that he has the power to make you lose your mind a little bit. And he wants to see that he is the one who can make you forget about your to-do list and your stresses, because when you show that kind of abandonment, it tells him that he is enough and that he is powerful in a world that often makes him feel small. This leads me to the concept of the initiation gap, which is something that ruins perfectly good relationships every single day, because most women wait for the guy to start the engine and they think that by being available, they are being sexy. But to a man, being available is neutral, while being intentional is everything. If you are the one who walks up to him while he's doing the dishes and whispers something spicy in his ear, or if you are the one who initiates the bedroom dance, it shifts the entire power dynamic from him feeling like a beggar to him feeling like a king. And I promise you that the look on his face when you take the lead will be worth more than any fancy toy or expensive outfit you could ever buy. You have to understand that men are starved for the feeling of being desired for who they are, rather than what they provide, and in the bedroom that translates to you showing him that his body and his touch and his energy are things you are hungry for, and not just things you are putting up with to keep the peace. We often hear that men are visual, but what people forget is that the most visual thing for a man isn't your skin, it is your reaction to him. And when you are vocal, and when you are moving, and when you are showing him exactly how good he is making you feel, you are feeding his ego in the healthiest way possible, which creates a loop of intimacy where he wants to give you even more. This isn't about being a porn star or having some crazy level of experience. It is about the raw honesty of the connection and the willingness to let go of the good girl persona that society has shoved down your throat since you were a teenager, because the man you are with wants the real you, the unpolished. You that isn't worried about the hair being messy or the makeup being smeared. He wants to see the version of you that only he gets to see, because that is what makes the act of getting it on truly special and exclusive. When you hide behind your insecurities, you are actually putting up a wall between his heart and your body, even if you are physically touching. I want you to start thinking about the bedroom not as a place where you have to do something, but as a place where you get to be something, and that something is a woman who is unapologetic about her desire, because a woman who knows what she wants isn't afraid to show it, is the most intoxicating thing a man will ever encounter. It is about breaking the silence and realizing that your voice is one of the most powerful tools you have to drive him wild, and I don't mean you have to give a play-by-play commentary, but the sounds of your breath and the little moans and the way you whisper his name tell him more than 1,000 words ever could. It's about building a bridge of communication that doesn't rely on logic, but on sensation. And when you master that, you become a woman that he can never imagine being without, because you have tapped into a part of his psyche that most women never even bother to look at. We spend so much time focusing on the mechanics of the deed, but we forget that the most important organ in the room is the brain. If you can capture his imagination by showing him your own fire, you have already won the game before the clothes even hit the floor. This is the first step in moving from a standard physical relationship to one that is fueled by a deep magnetic pull that keeps the spark alive for years, because you are no longer just two people having sex. You are two people connected on a level that is visceral and real and completely unfiltered. You have to let go of the idea that you are there for him and start realizing that you are there for the both of you, and that your pleasure is actually the fuel for his pleasure, because a man who truly cares about you gets his biggest kick out of knowing he is the source of your bliss. If you can lean into that and stop apologizing for your needs or your body or your desires, you will find that he responds with a level of passion and devotion that you didn't think was possible, because you have finally given him what he really wants, which is the permission to be himself while he's losing himself in you. This is just the beginning of understanding the hidden language of the bedroom. And once you start speaking it, you will see everything change in your relationship. Now let's dive into the second layer of this, because once you understand the power of being present, you have to understand the power of your own feedback loop and why your voice is actually the most underrated instrument in your entire repertoire of intimacy. You see, a lot of women think that being quiet is being polite or being feminine, but in the heat of the moment, silence is actually a massive source of anxiety for a man, because he is essentially flying a plane in the dark without any radar. He is sitting there wondering if he is doing the right thing, or if you are just counting the tiles on the ceiling, and when you don't. Give him those little cues or those vocal markers of your pleasure, his brain starts to spiral into a place of performance doubt. I want you to realize that a man's ego in the bedroom is incredibly fragile, not because he is weak, but because he is deeply invested in being your hero. And when you are vocal about what feels good, you are giving him a roadmap to your satisfaction, which actually takes the pressure off him to be a mind reader. Think about it like this. If you were learning a new dance and your partner just stood there with a blank expression, you would feel like you were failing, even if you were doing the steps perfectly. But the moment they smile or let out a little gasp of excitement, you feel like a rock star. It is the same thing when you are getting down and dirty, because those little sounds tell him that he has the power to affect you, and that is the ultimate drug for a guy. He wants to hear your breath hitch, and he wants to hear those low tones that signal you are moving from your head into your body, because that is the feedback that tells him he is winning. And let's talk about the concept of being nasty for a second, because that word has a lot of baggage, but in the context of a healthy relationship, what a man really wants is to know that you have a side of you that is reserved only for him. He wants to know that behind that professional boss babe exterior or that put together mom persona, there is a woman who can get a little bit wild and a little bit unhinged when the doors are locked. Most men are terrified of being too much or being perceived as a creep for having certain fantasies. So when you are the one who breaks the ice and shows him that you have a dirty mind too, it creates this incredible safe haven of mutual exploration. You are essentially giving him a whole pass to be his most authentic sexual self. And when two people can be their most authentic selves without judgment, that is when the magic really happens. It's not about doing anything crazy or of a movie. It's about the attitude of being all in and showing him that you aren't just a passive participant in the deed, but an active conspirator in the fun. I often tell my clients that the biggest turn on is a woman who owns her desire like it's a superpower, because most women have been taught to wait for permission to be sexual, but a woman who gives herself permission is magnetic. When you grab his hair, or when you tell him exactly what you want him to do to you, it sends a shockwave through his system, because it shows him that you are an active seeker of pleasure, and that makes the experience a shared journey rather than a one-man show. We also have to talk about the visual aspect, but not in the way you think, because while men are visual creatures, they aren't looking at your cellulite or that one hair you forgot to pluck. They are looking at the expression on your face when he touches you in that one specific spot. He is looking for the way your eyes roll back or the way your body arches, because those are the visuals of his success. And if you are too busy trying to hide under the covers or keep the lights off, you are robbing him of the very thing that makes him feel most connected to you. You have to be brave enough to be seen in your raw state, because that vulnerability is what builds the bridge between just having a physical release and actually making love. I want you to think about the last time you let yourself be completely messy in front of him. And I don't mean crying after a bad day. I mean the messiness of passion, where your hair is a disaster and your face is flushed, and you don't care how you look because you are too busy feeling. That is the version of you he is obsessed with. And if you can learn to love that version of yourself as much as he does, you will unlock a level of confidence that will change your entire dynamic. Another thing women don't realize is that men actually crave variety in the emotional tone of the bedroom. And it doesn't always have to be this serious soul bonding experience. Sometimes it should be playful, and sometimes it should be a little bit rough. And sometimes it should just be quick and dirty in the kitchen before dinner. When you allow the intimacy to have different flavors, you prevent it from becoming a chore or a routine, and you keep him on his toes because he never knows which version of you he's going to get. This creates a sense of adventure that most long-term relationships lack, because people get stuck in a one way of doing things that eventually becomes boring for both parties. I want you to start thinking about how you can surprise him, not with a new outfit, but with a new energy, because your energy is what he's actually reacting to. If you come at him with a sense of playfulness and a little bit of mischief, he is going to respond with a level of enthusiasm. That will blow your mind, because you have tapped into his need for novelty without needing to bring anyone else into the room. It's about being his partner in crime and showing him that the bedroom is a playground where anything goes as long as you are both having a blast. And let's be real for a minute about the physical side of things, because while we focus a lot on the emotional connection, the physical sensation of feeling wanted is a huge part of the puzzle. When you touch him with intention, and when you show him that you are curious about his body, you are making him feel like a desired object in the best way possible. Men spend so much of their lives being the one who does the touching, that when you take the time to explore him and show him what you like about his physique, it flips the script and makes him feel incredibly special. It's about the how and not just the what. And when you move with a sense of purpose, a sense of craving, it tells him everything he needs to know about his value in your eyes. This is why it's so important to get out of your head and into your senses, because when you are thinking you are disconnected, but when you are feeling you are plugged in. I want you to practice the art of the slow burn, where you build the tension throughout the day with a text or a look or a lingering touch, so that by the time you actually get to the bedroom, the chemistry is already at a boiling point. This shows him that you have been thinking about him and that you are anticipating the moment, which makes the actual act so much more explosive, because it's the climax of a story you've been writing all day. Most women wait for the lights to go down to start the engines, but the women who really understand men start the engine at breakfast and let it idle until the sun goes down. This kind of consistency and desire is what makes a man feel secure and excited. At the same time, because he knows that he is always on your mind. It's about creating a culture of intimacy in your relationship, where the physical act is just the natural extension of the spark you've been nurturing all day long. And remember that he wants to feel like he is the only man in the world who could make you feel this way. And when you tell him that, or when you show him that through your reactions, you are cementing your bond in a way that is incredibly powerful, you are telling him that he has a unique key to your pleasure, and that is a responsibility and a privilege that he will cherish. It's about moving away from the idea of sex as a duty or a favor and moving toward the idea of it being a celebration of the two of you. And when you make that mental shift, everything else falls into place. You don't need to be a supermodel, and you don't need to have a degree in Tantra. You just need to be a woman who's present and passionate and willing to share the realest version of herself with the man she loves. If you can do that, you'll be giving him exactly what he has been searching for his whole life, even if he didn't know how to ask for it. And the rewards for your relationship will be limitless because you have finally unlocked the secret door to his heart through the language of his body. This is where the real intimacy begins. And once you taste it, you will never want to go back to the old way of doing things, because you will see that the depth of your connection is directly tied to the depth of your surrender to the moment. Stop overthinking and start overfeeling, because that is where the truth lies, and that is where your power as a woman truly resides, in the bedroom and beyond. You have the ability to transform your sex life from something ordinary into something extraordinary just by changing your perspective on what he really needs from you. It's not about your performance, it's about your presence. And once you master that, you will be the most unforgettable woman he has ever known, because you have given him the one thing he can't find anywhere else, which is the feeling of being truly and deeply wanted for all that he is. Keep that fire burning and never apologize for the heat, because that heat is what keeps the relationship alive and thriving through the years. And now we have to talk about the part that almost no one discusses, because it is most vulnerable moment for a man, and it happens the second the fireworks are over. I want you to listen closely, because the 5 minutes after you have finished getting busy are actually more important for his long-term attraction to you than the 30 minutes of bedroom gymnastics that came before it. You see, there is this biological thing that happens to men where after the big moment, their brain is flooded with a cocktail of chemicals that makes them want to retreat into a shell. But it is also the moment where they are most sensitive to how you perceive them. Most women at this point either go straight to sleep, or they start talking about the grocery list, or they get insecure and ask, do you still love me? But what a man really needs in that moment of post-shag vulnerability is the feeling that he has successfully navigated the ship to the harbor. He needs a moment of quiet appreciation where you just hold him or stay connected to him with words, because it tells his lizard brain that he is safe and that he has done a good job. We have been conditioned to think that men just want to roll over and check their phones, but the truth is, he is often waiting for a sign from you that the connection was as profound for you as it was for him. If you can provide that sense of afterglow sanctuary where you aren't rushing to the next thing or judging his sudden drop in energy, you are building a psychological anchor that makes him crave you specifically, because you are the only woman who doesn't make him feel guilty for his natural biological cool down. This leads into a much bigger truth about the long game of intimacy, which is that what a man really wants from you is the freedom to be his most unpolished self without the fear that you are going to lose respect for him. In the outside world, he has to be the provider, the protector, the tough guy, but with you in the heat of the moment. He wants to be able to lose control, and the only way he can do that is if he knows you are right there with him. I want you to think about the concept of the safe playground where the two of you can drop the masks and stop being the couple and start being two raw souls discovering each other. Another thing that women often miss is the power of the morning after, or even the day after validation, because men live for the review. I know that sounds a bit silly, but a man's confidence is built on the feedback he gets from the woman he desires. So if you send him a text at 2 p.m. the next day saying, I am still thinking about what you did to me last night, you are giving him a shot of adrenaline that will last for a week. It tells him that the intimacy wasn't just a transaction or a way to kill time, but that it had a lasting impact on your psyche, and that is what makes him feel like a king. You have to understand that for a man, sex is one of the few places where he feels he can truly communicate his feelings for you without having to be a poet or a philosopher. And when you acknowledge that communication, you are speaking his heart language. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what I call the curiosity factor, because a lot of relationships fall into a rut where the bedroom becomes a script that both people have memorized. What a man really wants is for you to stay curious about him, even after you've been together for 5 years or 10 years. He wants you to ask questions with your hands and your eyes, and he wants you to be willing to try a different flavor of the deed every now and then just to see what happens. This doesn't mean you have to be a contortionist. It just means you have to be willing to break the routine and show him that your desire for him is an evolving thing. When you bring a sense of novelty and what if to the table, you are telling him that he is still a mystery worth solving, and that keeps the hunter instinct alive in him. This is where the slangs of the heart come into play, because it's not about the technicalities of the act. It's about the spirit of the adventure. You want to be the woman who can have a serious conversation about your future at dinner, and then be the woman who wants to get a little bit reckless and rowdy when the lights go out. That duality is the most intoxicating thing you can offer, because it shows him that you are a multifaceted human being who isn't afraid of her own shadow. We also need to address the rejection factor, because this is where so many couples go off the rails. Most women don't realize that for a man asking for spicy. Time is a huge risk of his ego, and when he is turned down, it doesn't just feel like a not tonight. It feels like a, I don't find you attractive. I'm not saying you have to say yes every time you are tired or not in the mood, but what men really want is a soft landing and a rain check that they can actually believe in. If you have to say, no, do it in a way that still makes him feel wanted, like I am so exhausted right now, but I want you to be the first thing I do tomorrow morning, and then actually follow through on it. This keeps the flame from being snuffed out by the cold water of rejection, and it shows him that you are still on his team. The secret to a man's heart is often through the reassurance that his sexual energy is a gift and not a burden. When you treat his drive as something that you value and enjoy, even when you can't engage with it in that exact second, you are creating a level of trust that most men never find in their entire lives. I want you to realize that your power in the bedroom isn't about how you look in the mirror. It's about how you make him feel about himself when he's inside that space with you. If he feels like a hero, if he feels like a beast, if he feels like a lover who can make the earth move for you, he will never look anywhere else, because you have become his primary source of masculine validation. And let's be honest about the fact that a man also wants to see you enjoying yourself for your own sake. Nothing is more of a turn-off for a guy than the feeling that you are giving him sex like you're giving a kid a piece of candy to stop them from crying. He wants to see that you are taking your own pleasure seriously and that you are getting your own need met, because that takes the pressure off him to be the sole performer and turns it into a shared feast. When you own your big O, and you own your cravings, and you own your body, it gives him the green light to do the same, and that is where the real heat is generated. It is the difference between a cold embers and a roaring bonfire. I want you to walk away from this feeling empowered to be the architect of your own desire, because when you are lit up from the inside, every man in the room can feel it, but the man in your bed is the one who gets to bask in that glow. Stop worrying about whether you are doing it right and start focusing on whether you are doing it real, because realness is the only thing that lasts once the novelty wears off. You have the keys to a kingdom of intimacy that most people only dream of, but you have to be brave enough to use them, and that means being vocal, being present, being intentional, and being unapologetic about the fact that you are a sexual being with a hunger that matches his. When you show up in that way, you aren't just giving him what he wants, you are giving yourself the kind of connection that nourishes your soul and makes the rest of the world fade away. This is the ultimate secret of the bedroom. It's not about the moves, it's about the connection. And once you have that, everything else is just icing on the cake. Go out there and be the woman who isn't afraid to get her hair a little messy and her heart a little exposed, because that is where the true magic lives, and that is what he is really waiting for, even if he doesn't have the words to tell you. You are enough. You are powerful. And your desire is a beautiful thing. So stop hiding it and start sharing it with the world. And especially with the man who is lucky enough to be by your side. This is the path to a relationship that doesn't just survive, but thrives with a passion that grows deeper with every passing year, because you have mastered the hidden language of what it really means to be intimate. Listen to your body, listen to his heart. And don't be afraid to speak the slang of passion that only the two of you understand, because that is the most beautiful music you will ever make together. You've got this, and I am right here cheering you on every step of the way as you unlock the most incredible version of your love life.